After two gaffes in a week, where President Joe Biden first said that he spoke to the former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl about European concerns, when he apparently meant Angela Merkel, as Kohl died in 2017 and then mistakenly referring to the Egyptian President al-Sisi as the President of Mexico. On the 9th of February 2024, doctors called for President Joe Biden to receive a Montreal Cognitive Assessment test to prove he is fit to serve. In this video, I will show you a Montreal Cognitive Assessment test, or MoCA for short, that is available for download from the Irish Health Service Executive's website, or HSE for short. I will explain how a MoCA assessment test is conducted by medical professionals and the results evaluated. Before we look at each of the subtests of the MoCA assessment, I would like to inform you that I am not a medical doctor, and therefore, this video should not be used as a testing guideline. If you believe that you or anyone else that you know has cognitive decline, please consult a medical professional. According to the HSE's website, the MoCA test is used to detect mild cognitive decline and early signs of dementia. It is a 10 to 12 minutes test, created in 1996 in Montreal, Canada. It assesses different cognitive domains, such as vision constructional skills and executive functions, naming, memory, attention, language, abstract thinking, delayed recall, and orientation. Let's look how each of the MoCA assessment subtests are conducted and scored. In the first test, which is known as the alternating trail making, the subject is given 5 numbers and letters and asked to draw a line or connect the dots, going from a number to a letter in ascending order. No lines can be crossed. At the end of the test, 1 point is given if the subject has successfully connected the dots. The subject is allowed to correct a mistake before moving to the next task, which is known as the cube. In this task, the subject is presented with a 3-dimensional cube, and he is asked to make an exact copy of it. The subject is given 1 point if he successfully makes an exact copy of the cube. All lines must be drawn, have the same size, connect with little or no space, be parallel to each other, and the cube must have same orientation and space as the original one. No point is given if any of the criteria is not met. The next test is another vision constructional skills test called clock. In this test, the subject is asked to draw a circular or square clock, putting in all the numbers and set the time to 10 minutes past 11 o'clock. This test is worth 3 points. 1 point is allocated for each of the following 3 criteria. Criteria number 1. The contour of the clock must be drawn with minor distortions. Criteria number 2. All clock numbers must be present with no additional numbers. All numbers must be in the correct order, upright, and placed in the approximate quadrants, either all inside or all outside of the clock's contour. Both Arabic and Roman numerals are acceptable. Criteria number 3. The clock must have 2 hands. A short one, indicating the hours, and a long one indicating the minutes. Hands must be centered within the clock face, with their junction close to the clock center. During this test, the examiner must ensure that the subject does not look at his watch while performing the task, and that no clocks are in sight. In the naming test, the subject is shown 3 animals that he must name: a lion, a rhino, and a camel. The subject gets 1 point for each correctly named animal. As the name suggests, the memory test is to test the subject's memory. In this test, the examiner reads a list of 5 words, at a rate of 1 word per second, that the subject must remember: face, velvet, church, daisy, red. After reading the words, the examiner asks the subject to tell all the words he remembers. As the subject recites the words, the examiner marks a check in the box for each word said aloud. The order the subject recites the words is not considered. When the subject indicates that they have recalled all they can, the examiner reads the list a second time. At the end, the subject is asked to recall all the words again. The examiner puts a check in the allocated space for each word the subject recalls on the second trial. At the end of the second trial, the examiner informs the subject that he will be asked to recall these words again at the end of the test, but this time unprompted. That is the part of the test that is scored. The attention test consists of the numbers test, the letters test, and a math test. In the numbers test, the examiner reads a list of 5 numbers, at a rate of 1 number per second. Then the subject is asked to recall them exactly as they were said. The examiner then reads 3 numbers, at a rate of 1 number per second, and asks the subject to recall them backwards. The examiner allocates 1 point for each sequence correctly repeated. In the letters test, the examiner reads a list of letters at a rate of 1 per second. Every time the examiner says the letter A, the subject is required to tap their hand. 1 point is allocated if there is 0 to 1 error. In the math test, the examiner instructs the subject to count by subtracting 7 from 100 and then keep subtracting 7 from the answer 5 times in a row. The subject is not allowed to use his fingers nor a pencil and paper. The math test is scored out of 3 points. 0 points for no correct answers, 1 point for 1 correct answer, 2 points for 2 or 3 correct answers, and 3 points for 4 or 5 correct answers. Each subtraction is evaluated independently. That is, if the subject responds with an incorrect number but continues to correctly subtract 7 from it, each correct subtraction is counted. The language test consists of 2 parts. The first part is performed in 2 steps. Step 1. The examiner reads the sentence, "I only know that John is the one to help today." Then the subject is asked to repeat the sentence exactly. Step 2. The examiner reads a second sentence, "The cat always hid under the couch when dogs were in the room." Then the subject is asked to repeat the second sentence exactly. In this test, 1 point is allocated for each sentence correctly repeated. The second part of the language test is to test the subject's verbal fluency. Here the examiner asks the subject to think of words that starts with the letter F. For example, flower, floor, fig, figure, and so on. Proper nouns, numbers, for example 5, and different forms of a verb are not permitted. To earn a point, the subject must generate 11 words or more in 60 seconds. In the abstraction test, the subject is asked to describe what the relationship is between the words orange and a banana, a train and a bicycle, a watch and a ruler. The practice trial pair, orange and a banana, for which the correct answer is fruit, is not scored. Only the pairs a train and a bicycle, a watch and a ruler are scored. 1 point is given for each pair that is correctly answered. The following responses are acceptable. Train and a bicycle, means of transportation, means of traveling, you take trips in both. Ruler and a watch, measuring instruments, used to measure. The following responses are not acceptable. Train and a bicycle, they have wheels. Ruler and a watch, they have numbers. Delayed recall. In this test, the subject is asked to recall all the words they heard earlier in the memory test: face, velvet, church, daisy, red. The subject is then given 1 point for each word recalled, without any cues from the examiner. You have probably noticed that there is also an optional section in the delayed recall test. I am not going to discuss that section. It is used to calculate the so-called memory index score, or MIS, where the examiner provides a category cue, or semantic, for each word the subject was unable to recall. The use of cues provides clinical information on the nature of the memory deficits. For memory deficits, due to retrieval failures, performance can be improved with a cue. For memory deficits, due to encoding failures, performance does not improve with a cue. And the last test is about orientation. The subject is asked to tell the exact date, month, year, day, and the name of the place they are in, including the city. In this final test, 1 point is allocated for each correct answer. The total score of the MoCA assessment test is calculated by adding all subscores of the individual tests. 1 point is added for subjects that have 12 years or fewer of formal education, for a possible maximum of 30 points. A total score of 26 and above is considered normal. On the 28th of February 2024, after his annual physical examination, President Joe Biden was declared fit for duty by his physician. However, he did not undergo a cognitive examination. According to White House Press Secretary Karine, both his primary care doctor and neurologist said it wasn't necessary. I have no information if President Trump has taken the Montreal Cognitive Assessment test again, but in 2018, he was given the test under Dr. Ronnie Jackson, the former White House physician, and at the time had scored a perfect 30 out of 30. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Would President Biden do as good as President Trump on the MoCA test or not? Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? Then show your support by subscribing, ringing the bell, and enabling notifications to never miss videos like this.